In response to FOSIS not condemning extremism or almost being too complacent about extremism, which was the particular words that the Home Secretary used with reference to us, there is nothing to suggest that FOSIS has actually encouraged extremism in any part, or not condemned it where it was necessary. If anything, we have been very, very clear about where we stand on the issue, and supported our Islamic societies when they've been wrongly accused and scrutinised by authorities and institutions. Now, look, there's a diversity of opinions, and we stand firmly by full freedom of expression. You can't stifle debate simply because you don't agree with it, and that's not something we're going to shy away from. We're not going to be apologetic for that either. It's something we encourage within our Islamic societies: open debate and transparency in all their events. So in terms of, and just to advocate again and again, there is nothing to suggest that extremism is happening on campuses. There's nothing to suggest that university is a radicalising factor, and this is something that FOSIS pushes on and on again. And we've even gone out of our way to really engage with the issue. Like just recently, this year, back in March, we held the first ever conference to address extremism on campus. I don't see the government holding any similar events, but we did it. We brought in academics, experts, the police, Prevent, and we talked about the issues maturely and discussed solutions and what's the way forward. And it was quite an overwhelming response was there's not enough evidence here. And to hear that from all sides of the sector is very comforting to know. And it really demonstrates the need to explore this area, and it gives us the right direction in terms of moving forward. From our own experiences within FOSIS, the Federation of Student Islamic Societies, it has become apparent that some universities, some students' unions don't have very clear guidelines when it comes to looking at their speakers in terms of how controversial they are and so on. And this can work positively and can work negatively in terms of with regards to the freedom of expression debate. And in that sense, that's the reason why particular institutions have felt there's a need to fill this gap. Institutions such as Universities UK and the National Union of Students have particularly pursued this in terms of writing up their own guidelines. I think ensuring that the process is as transparent as possible is definitely important, as transparent and as thorough as possible, because ultimately that will only work in favour of those who are advocates of freedom of expression. However, to imply that there needs to be a change, or to put forward a perception that one of limitations, you don't want to give the impression that limits need to be put in place. It really should be the other way around. It should be really about transparency, ensuring that processes are fair and thorough, and that people are being consulted properly when a particular controversial issue does arise on campus. And that's something we definitely advocate. We've supported different institutions in putting their guidelines together with that in mind. So not about limitation, but really about ensuring the right processes in place, so to ensure that everybody has a fair right to speak and put forward their views, and ensuring that any speaker that is actually tarnished by these claims has a fair representation, and essentially gives them a fair shot, essentially, without any assumptions being made based on hearsay or just general sensationalist media and articles or the right-wing groups. I feel that the particular focus by the media and right-wing groups on ISOC speakers in particular, on extremism, Islamism, is definitely sensationalised. It's really put a really harsh, strong spotlight on Muslim students, one that's ultimately undeserved. Just the Universities UK report recently, that was recently released, actually indicated that ISOC speakers weren't even at the top of the controversial issues that campuses in fact face. It's other issues such as ethical or environmental activists, which might actually, or animal rights, that actually are more prominent on campuses. Yet why do we find then that most of the focus is on Islamic speakers that come to campuses, ones that the Islamic societies invite, and all the negativity is only focused on them, and nothing positive is ever mentioned about Islamic societies. It's only mentioned through the proactive efforts of Muslim students on their own campuses. So I don't think that Muslim students are, going out of their way to invite extremist speakers, or that all Islamic society speakers happen to be more extreme than most speakers. I think genuinely there's been a negative, sensationalized focus on this particular issue, which has been taken completely out of context. And to imply that being religious or becoming politicized leads to terrorism or violence is completely inaccurate, because I think radicalism should be encouraged, if anything, in terms of radical thought and radical activism. I think that's something that students go through. It's a natural process that they go through, and to imply that that leads to violence is completely unfair, in my opinion. I think with regards to the police interfering in student matters on campus, there are benefits here, but there are also definitely negatives in this case as well. The police have like we've mentioned before, they are working under the Prevent agenda. They are working with a particular set of goals in mind. So they're looking from the framework of anti-terrorism, anti-extremism, which isn't exactly conducive to healthy campus relations. Now, if you speak to the likes of the NUS, they will say, you know, student unions are genuinely encouraged to actually speak to the police just so they know what's going on in the community and other matters, because they need that context. Now, whilst that's relevant, I think there's a danger in over-relying on police input, because they definitely have a different set of goals in mind, which isn't exactly correspondent to the ones that a student union has with regards to ensuring that freedom of expression is protected and so on. Theirs is a very much security-focused position, so I think that's something, it can be concerning. However, it's not completely negative. I think needs to be, on some level, there needs to be some engagement, and we don't shy away from engagement. So there definitely needs to be some engagement with the police locally, but it needs to be within framework of mutual respect, and no assumptions being made that about anti-terrorism, anti-extremism, or the assumption being made that these students are susceptible to such things, because it's very patronising and quite naive on their part as well. Ultimately, this whole Prevent agenda has been put together with very little evidence to actually back up their claims, and even real solid issues that concern Muslim communities and concern others have not been addressed whatsoever. So for years we've been saying, foreign policy really is a driving force behind these individuals. You see their videos they create before any particular attack. It's all about foreign policy here, but then you get the government consistently repeating that it's not about foreign policy, that's just an excuse. There are deeper issues here that are more ideological. And I think even within the new report, that's not taken on board at all. There's no references made to the fact that this has an influencing factor. So I think a lot more consideration needs to be taken into the actual issues that are driving people to such things.